Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are doing something a little different. We are essentially taking a hammer to a myth.
Yeah, a really big hammer.
Because usually, when we talk about literary legends, we talk about their greatest hits, the victories, the applause.
But today, we are looking at the scars.
Exactly. We are stripping away the velvet, the feathers, the stage lights, all of it, just to look at a legend before he actually became a legend. We are talking about Savinien de Cyrano de Bergerac.
And if you, the listener, picture Cyrano right now, you have the image ready.
Oh, absolutely. The nose.
Yeah.
The giant protruding nose.
Yeah. The
sword fighting while reciting poetry. The unrequited love.
Right. It is the ultimate symbol of French bravery and wit. But here's the thing about myths. They often obscure the man.
They really do.
Yeah.
And what is so fascinating about the source material we have for this deep dive is that it doesn't look at the finished product at all. It doesn't look at the swaggering soldier in Paris.
No, this stack of documents takes us back to the forge, as the text calls it. We are looking at the childhood and adolescence of Savinien.
We are looking at the raw, painful, and frankly traumatic events that hammered him into the shape of Cyrano.
And that is the core thesis here. The source material argues that panache, that specific brand of flair and confidence, wasn't a gift.
Right. It wasn't something he was just born with, like having blue eyes or a natural talent for math.
No, panache in this context is armor.
I want to pause on that distinction because it completely reframes everything. Usually we think of panache as something you show off, like a peacock spreading its feathers. But you were saying the text argues it is strictly defensive.
Precisely. It is a direct response to trauma. The text actually asks a really haunting question right in the foreword.
Oh, the avant-propos section.
Yes. We all know the famous line, "It is more beautiful when it is useless." But the source asks something deeper. It asks what kind of man prefers flame to home, brilliance to rest.
Yeah, that line hit me hard when I read it. Because normally we just think, oh, he's so cool, he doesn't care about practical things. He's above it all.
Right, the romantic ideal.
But the text is suggesting that this preference for the flame comes from a wound. I mean, if you prefer the flame, it implies the home was cold or the home was dangerous.
Exactly. The text literally says, panache is not a gift, it is armor. We hammer it to stop feeling. We shine to stop being silent.
So our mission today is to explore that hammering process. We're going to Mauvières, the family estate, to meet the boy who would eventually become the legend.
So let's set the scene for everyone. We are not in the bustling romantic streets of Paris yet. We are at Mauvières.
And based on the descriptions in the source, this is not a place for dreamers at all.
Not even a little bit. This is a place of earth. It is strictly agricultural. It is pragmatic.
The source describes it as a place of sweat and grain. It is muddy, it is cold, and it is serious.
And ruling over this muddy domain is Abel, Savinien's father.
Now, Abel seems like a bit of a piece of work. He is described as rigid, pragmatic, completely obsessed with ledgers. But is he a villain? Or is he just a dad trying to keep the farm running?
That is the crucial nuance here. He isn't a villain in some mustache-twirling sense. He is the embodiment of reality.
Right.
For Abel, value is measured in harvest yields, in sacks of wheat, in the bottom line of a ledger. If it doesn't put bread on the table or wood in the fire, it is fundamentally useless to him.
Because he is terrified of failure, terrified of starvation.
Exactly. And then you have Savinien, the young dreamer. He is trying to reconcile two completely different worlds. The text calls them the hero of paper and the hero of the field.
That is such a perfect way to put it. That is the central conflict of his youth, really. Can you be a poet in a world that only values plows?
And Savinien wants to be both. He wants to prove he can handle the reality of the mud while keeping his head in the stars.
But it is not just the father he is dealing with. We have to talk about the brother, Pierre.
Pierre, the shadow.
That nickname alone tells you everything you need to know about his psychology.
Pierre is such a tragic figure in the source material. He is the younger brother, or at least the lesser brother, in terms of brilliance and physical presence.
He feels totally inferior to Savinien's wit and his height.
But, and this is really important at the start, they actually have a bond. It is not a bitter rivalry yet. It is a dynamic of the protector and the protected.
We also have the mother, Espérance, and a friend, Madeleine. They seem to be the only ones who actually see Savinien's soul.
But the real drama, the thing that kicks off this whole forging process, is the conflict between Savinien and his father. It starts with what the source calls the dawn argument.
Let's unpack this scene because it perfectly sets up the entire dynamic.
Yeah.
So it is early morning. The sun is just coming up. The farm is waking up to work. And Abel finds Savinien Doing what? Not working.
He finds him reading.
Reading at dawn. I mean, in a modern context, a parent might be absolutely thrilled their kid is up early reading a book. But here,
in a farm household in this era, that is practically a sin. It is theft. You are stealing valuable time from the harvest.
So Abel comes out with his ledger, ready to start the day's labor, and finds his son with a book.
And the dialogue here is so revealing. Abel says, "Heroes of paper do not sow grain."
That is such a cutting line. Heroes of paper. He's basically saying your world is fake, my world is real. He is completely dismissing the entire value of Savinien's existence.
He really is. He tells Savinien the book stands up when the shoulder carries it.
Meaning culture and art are luxuries that rest entirely on the back of manual labor.
Right. If you don't do the work, you don't get the poetry. It is a very Marxist idea, actually. The base determines the superstructure.
But Savinien doesn't just fold, does he? He argues back. He says, I want to unite the two.
He pleads with him. He says, I will carry the scythe, but leave me my voice.
This is so crucial for understanding Cyrano. He isn't trying to escape reality yet. He wants to integrate.
He wants to be a man who can work the field and write the poem. He wants to be complete.
And they actually come to an agreement. Savinien promises to work the fields by day and write by night. He wants to prove a poet can have ribs, as he puts it, that he has real physical strength.
Which leads us directly to the scene that the source calls the sack race, or more accurately, the scene of physical proof.
This is where we see Savinien really trying to live up to that promise. And the scene was surprisingly physical for a story about a poet. You have Pierre, the brother, struggling with these heavy flour sacks. And Savinien steps in.
He doesn't just step in, he takes over. But notice how he does it. He turns the labor into a rhythm.
Right, he starts counting. 1, 2, hail.
Yeah.
He tells Pierre to listen to the grain singing as it pours.
Even when he is hauling heavy sacks of flour, he is aestheticizing it. He is making it into art.
Why does he do that, though? Is it a coping mechanism?
It is just his nature. He cannot interpret the world without filtering it through language. If he just lifts the sack, he's a beast of burden. If he lifts the sack and makes it sing, he's a hero. He elevates the mundane.
But the most important part of this scene isn't the flour. It is the conversation with Pierre. This is the moment of the brotherly pact.
Yeah, Pierre actually admits his jealousy here. He says, I hold so low, you fly so high.
That is an incredibly vulnerable thing to admit to your big brother. He feels heavy, grounded, stuck in the mud, while Savinien just seems to float above it all.
It is very vulnerable. And Savinien's response is beautiful. He reassures him. He says, 2 forces, 1 roof.
He uses this metaphor of a boat. Pierre's the anchor that holds. Savinien is the sail that catches the wind. You need both.
2 forces, 1 roof. It implies they are a team. One provides stability, the other provides motion. It is a really lovely, idealistic view of brotherhood.
And they agree to meet under the chestnut tree later so Savinien can read his verses.
And specifically, verses made of sweat and grain. Savinien is trying so hard to belong here.
He isn't an outcast by choice at this point.
No, he is desperate to show his father and his brother that his art can serve the family. He literally says he wants to write poems where an alexandrine sweats at the labor of carrots.
I love that image so much. An alexandrine, that is a line of poetry, specifically a 12-syllable line used in high French tragedy, sweating over carrots.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous, but also very mobile.
It is the ultimate synthesis. He wants to bring the gods down to the garden. He wants to make the mud holy.
But, as we know from the source material, this hope is about to be completely crushed. We are approaching the first major trauma. The source calls this the burning of the manuscripts.
This is the scene where the forge gets incredibly hot.
Reading it in the source material actually made me feel cold. It is evening, the family is at the table, the day is done. Abel, the father, is actually happy, right?
He is. He is pleased with Savinien's work. He is showing him the ledgers. For a brief moment, it looks like Savinien has succeeded.
He bridged the gap. He proved he has ribs.
But then the fire starts to die down.
It is just a practical problem. The room is getting cold. Abel, the pragmatist, needs to stoke the fire. He needs paper to get the flames going again.
And he sees a stack of papers near the hearth. He thinks it is a bundle of old accounts, old receipts, trash.
But we know, and you, the listener, know that it is Savinien's manuscripts, his poems, the work he promised to read to Pierre under the chestnut tree.
And the absolute horror is that Pierre and the mother, Espérance, realize it first. They see what is happening, but Abel just tosses them in.
And here's the pivot point.
Yeah.
This is where the boy becomes the man. Because most people would scream. They would dive into the fire. They would attack their father.
Right. I would be flipping the table. I would be shouting, "That is my soul you are burning."
Exactly. But Savinien does none of that.
The source describes him as turning white as a shroud, but he stands perfectly still. And when the realization fully hits, he delivers this line, "The ash is a school."
The ash is a school. I want to really dig into that. What does that mean in that exact moment? Is he in shock?
It is the birth of his stoicism. It is the birth of his panache. He immediately reframes the trauma.
He looks at the fire warming the house, fueled by his own poetry, and he performs a mental calculation.
He says, effectively, the fire heats the house. Therefore, my poetry served purpose.
He blesses the fire.
He blesses the fire rather than cursing the father. He tells his father it warms well.
That is almost inhuman self-control. It feels like he is disassociating.
It is armor. Remember the thesis. Panache is armor. He is forging a shield around his heart right there in that room.
Because if he screams, he is a victim.
Exactly. If he cries, he admits that his father has the power to destroy him. But if he reinterprets the pain as a victory of perspective, he remains the master of his own reality.
So he pretends it is fine.
He does way more than pretend. He internalizes it. He vows to write better. He says he will use the black soot as his new ink.
He promises to return to the fields the next day without rancor. It is a terrifying level of discipline for a young man.
It is heartbreaking. He is prioritizing his dignity over his grief.
And that is the absolute essence of the Cyrano we know later, the man who is wounded in the final act but refuses to sit down.
It starts right here, by the fireplace in Mauvières. He learns that if you can turn a tragedy into a witty remark, the tragedy cannot touch you.
Wow. So he survives the fire. But the universe, or at least this source material, is not done with him yet. We have to talk about the nose.
We cannot avoid the nose. It is the elephant in the room, or the trump in the room.
There is a scene at the barn. Local bullies, kids named Matthew and Paul, are mocking him. They say they could climb his nose like a steeple.
Kids are unbelievably cruel. But this scene is important because it introduces Madeleine as his defender.
She steps in and completely shames the bullies. She says something very profound about his nose. She calls it a sign of a heart that prefers suffering to crawling.
She turns his physical insecurity into a literal badge of honor. She's basically saying, you look different because you are different.
She frames his deformity as distinction. And in the aftermath of that bullying, Madeleine and Savinien share a quiet moment. They carve their initials into a wooden beam in the barn. S&M.
Standard romantic gesture, but also a claiming of territory. We are the outcasts, we are together.
To them, it is a symbol of their bond, a promise, but there is a witness. Pierre is watching from the shadows. And this is where the tragedy of perception kicks in.
Pierre sees S&M and interprets it as a total rejection of himself.
He feels totally left out. He feels erased.
Remember, he already feels like the shadow. Now he sees his brother, who is smarter, stronger, and more talented, taking the girl too.
He interprets S&M not as Savinien and Madeleine, but as not Pierre.
And this jealousy just festers. It bubbles under the surface until it leads directly to the pivotal catastrophe of the story, the ladder accident.
This is the major turning point that leads to Savinien's exile. And we really need to look at the mechanics of this scene because it is all about perspective.
Walk us through the setup.
So Pierre, desperate for attention, desperate to prove he isn't just a shadow, decides to do something incredibly dangerous. He climbs a rotten ladder up to the roof of the barn.
He wants to show he has courage, that he can climb high, too. He wants to be a hero of the field in a way that impresses everyone.
But the ladder is completely rotten.
It is totally unstable. Savinien sees this happening. He rushes over. He yells, "Pierre, descend. The wood will give way."
He is clearly trying to save him. That is explicitly clear in the text.
It is clear to us as readers. Savinien grabs the ladder. He shakes it, not to knock Pierre down, but to test its stability, or perhaps to try and wedge it securely into the ground. It is a chaotic moment of pure panic.
But from Pierre's perspective, or maybe from the perspective of his jealousy.
The ladder breaks. Pierre falls. He hits the ground hard. He is injured.
And in the dust and pain and confusion, Pierre looks up at Savinien, who is left holding the broken piece of the ladder, and he makes the accusation.
He says Savinien did it on purpose. He says he shook the ladder. I saw him.
Does Pierre actually believe that? Or is he lying to get Savinien in trouble?
The source leaves it beautifully ambiguous, but it heavily leans towards a confused truth. Pierre is in terrible pain. He's deeply jealous. He already believes Savinien is against him because of the carving in the barn.
Right, his brain just fills in the gaps with the worst-case scenario.
In that split second, his mind constructs a reality where Savinien is the villain. It is just easier to believe his brother pushed him than to believe he was foolish enough to climb a rotten ladder in the first place.
And Abel, the father, he arrives and he just believes Pierre instantly.
Abel arrives on the scene. He sees the broken ladder, the injured son, and the proud poet standing over him with the wood in his hands.
It confirms every single thing Abel already fears about Savinien, that his pride is dangerous, that his panache is destructive.
He sees exactly what he wants to see. He sees the hero of paper destroying the hero of the field.
So we move directly to the trial in the courtyard.
Though it is barely a trial, it is a verdict.
Abel claims Savinien sabotaged Pierre to remain the only hero. He literally says, you broke the ladder to keep your brother down.
That is absolutely devastating. He is accusing his own son of malice.
Then Savinien tries to defend himself, doesn't he?
He tries. He says he was trying to save him, but Abel silences him immediately. Enough lies.
And then comes the sentence. Savinien is banished. He is sent away to boarding school, the Collège de Beauvais.
Basically, get out of my house. You are a danger to this family.
It is a total exile. He's being kicked out of the garden. But there is a massive twist right before he leaves. Madeleine confronts Pierre.
Because she knows the truth. She saw the whole thing.
She tells Pierre that Savinien was trying to save him.
And Pierre, he actually confesses, not to the father, but to Madeleine. He admits his jealousy stemmed from seeing the SM carving.
He felt erased by Savinien's brilliance and Madeleine's love for his brother.
So he realizes that his lie or his twisted perception has effectively destroyed the family unit.
But it is too late. The decision is already made. The carriage is waiting in the courtyard.
Which brings us to the departure. The source calls this section the anatomy of panache. This is where the symbolism just goes completely off the charts.
It's the final assembly of the armor. Savinien is standing at the threshold. He is about to leave home, probably forever. And he receives two gifts.
First, the mother's gift. Esperance gives him a quill, a pen.
It symbolizes the soul, expression, hope, and the hero of paper. It is her way of saying, whatever happens, don't lose your voice.
And the father, even after banishing him in anger.
Abel is still a pragmatist at his core. He gives him a coin, a silver piece.
It symbolizes reality, survival, the body, the hero of the field. It is his way of saying, don't starve out there.
So he has the pen and the coin, soul and reality. Which does he choose?
He takes both. And this is the crucial detail. He clutches the pen to his heart, but he pockets the coin.
Oh, that is a brilliant detail. He keeps the coin because he knows he needs to eat. He isn't entirely detached from reality, but he hides it.
Yes, he keeps the pen visible. He clutches it to his chest. He acknowledges the absolute necessity of reality, but he officially prioritizes the spirit.
He is making a definitive choice about what kind of man he will be.
And then there's the final symbol, the blackberry branch.
Madeleine leaves it for him. It is a bramble branch with two blackberries, one for each brother, a symbol of what could have been, and a painful symbol of the separation.
And this is where Savinien defines panache for the very first time.
He holds up that thorny branch. He doesn't hold up the coin or the pen. He holds up the brambles.
And he declares, Knight of Thorns, I will have fearless hands. Glory to him who dares to grasp the brambles.
Glory to him who dares to grasp the brambles. That line genuinely gives me chills.
That is the ultimate definition. Panache isn't just wearing a nice hat or having a quick wit. It is the active willingness to grab the thorns of life with your bare hands.
To wear your wounds as honors.
To face injustice, like the false accusation from his brother, like the burning of his precious manuscripts with a high head.
So when we see Cyrano later in life fighting 100 men or insulting a viscount over a play, he is really just grasping the brambles over and over again.
He is continuously reenacting that moment of departure. He is saying to the world, you cannot hurt me because I have already decided that pain is glory.
He takes total ownership of his suffering.
Let's synthesize this whole forge concept. We have 4 distinct elements that created the Cyrano we know.
Right. Let's list them out to see the full picture. First, you have the father's pragmatism. This taught him that the world is hard and entirely indifferent to poetry. It taught him he has to actively fight for his art.
Second, the brother's jealousy. This taught him that even love can turn into betrayal if you shine too bright. It taught him the reality of loneliness.
Third, the fire. This taught him stoicism. The ash is a school. It taught him how to transform catastrophic loss into art.
And fourth, the false accusation. This taught him that truth doesn't always win in the real world, so you must carry your own truth like a banner, like a panache.
He didn't just decide to be witty one day. He was forced to build a fortress of words because his physical reality, the ladder, the farm, his family entirely rejected him.
Exactly. The ladder rejected him, the farm rejected him, his father rejected him. So he built a world where words are the only things that truly matter.
It is a magnificent prison.
That is the underlying tragedy of the myth. He shines so brightly so he doesn't have to feel the silence.
He talks constantly, so he doesn't have to listen to the echo of his brother's betrayal.
It makes you look at the famous character so differently. He isn't actually arrogant. He is lonely.
Profoundly lonely. And profoundly brave. Because instead of collapsing under the weight of that loneliness, he turned it into a masterpiece of a performance.
So, what does this all mean for us? For you listening?
I think it deeply challenges our everyday definition of heroism. We usually think of heroes as winners. The guy who gets the girl, wins the sword fight, saves the day, walks away clean.
But Savinien loses everything in this foundational story. He loses his poems, his brother's trust, his home, his reputation. By all standard metrics, he is a massive loser in this chapter of his life.
Exactly. And yet, he emerges from it as a hero. Why? Because of how he handles the loss. True heroism, this source strongly suggests, isn't about winning at all.
It is about the moment you stand before a burning fire, watching your life's work turn to literal ash, and you decide to say, the ash is a school.
It is about constructing your own meaning out of suffering.
And perhaps we all do that in our own ways. We all construct our own panache. We all have that child inside us who was misunderstood or falsely accused or bullied for the shape of their nose.
And the adult personality we show the world, the jokes we tell, the clothes we wear, the career we throw ourselves into, that is often just the armor we built to protect that child.
That is a lot to think about. Next time you see someone with a lot of panache, maybe ask yourself, what thorns are they holding in their hands?
And do they have the courage to hold them tight? Thanks for diving deep with us. We will see you next time.